Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Oh, it's Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. It's not very often that we do live stuff, live reaction on Saturday afternoons, especially during games. I'm on right now. Alabama, Tennessee is on. St. John just clinched a Big East title, etc. But I felt like we did have to come live here on Saturday evening because there was a big piece of late-breaking news that I think is absolutely worth discussing, involving a really key player at a really prominent school that I still believe has a chance to make a deep tournament run. But this is certainly going to put a little bit of a wrinkle in that. So the news comes from Rupp Arena. Obviously, Saturday, Kentucky hosted the number one team in the country, Auburn. We'll talk a little bit about that game. By the way, we're going to have a full Aaron Torres pod on Sunday to react to everything. But Auburn goes to Rupp Arena. Auburn wins. But the big story outside of Auburn clinching the SEC regular season title, and oh, by the way, outside of the fact that ABC lost the broadcast in the middle of the game, is that after the game, Mark Pope, Kentucky basketball coach, did announce something that I think is certainly disappointing. You feel bad, but I don't know that it's totally shocking. And that's the news that Jaxson Robinson, Kentucky's second leading scorer, a player who followed Mark Pope from BYU to Kentucky, he's officially out for the season. He's been dealing with a wrist injury, tried to come back against Oklahoma, left the Oklahoma game. And Mark Pope did announce after the Auburn game just that, listen, they've tried multiple treatments. Jaxson Robinson tried to come back, tried to get a shot, tried to play through it. It is not going to happen. He is out for the year, and his Kentucky career is over. Well, you know, it was only going to go one season anyway, but obviously, a couple weeks shorter than anyone had anticipated. So I want to spend just a few minutes talking about this injury, how I feel, why I feel bad for Jaxson Robinson, but then also kind of what is the ceiling of this team now without its second leading scorer. So I think, first of all, the initial there are really two initial emotions. I mean, I think the first emotion is I just feel bad for Jaxson Robinson, and I'll be transparent. I feel bad for Kentucky fans. You know, I know going back to last spring, remember, we cover the portal so much on this show. We covered it so aggressively last spring as Kentucky was putting together a full roster. And I know how excited Kentucky fans were about the possibility of Jaxson Robinson even being a Wildcat, let alone actually him becoming one. I go back to the updates all throughout April and May. I go back to the night of the NBA draft deadline. We were doing a live show, and Jaxson Robinson just never ended up making his announcement. Next day, I went on vacation. I'm in Mexico. I get off the plane, and I see that Jaxson Robinson is not only officially pulled out of the draft, but he's going to be a Kentucky Wildcat. And I remember doing live coverage from Mexico on vacation, talking about that commitment because of how important it was for that team and how important it was for that kid to follow Mark Pope as well. And so I know the excitement. I'm disappointed. I feel bad for the fan base. I feel bad for Jaxson Robinson too, right? Kind of a star-crossed career. We know that, it started in a few different places. It started at A&M. He goes from there to Arkansas. It doesn't work out, but finds a home with Mark Pope, finds a home at BYU. And we really saw the best version of Jaxson Robinson under Mark Pope. And so he follows Mark Pope. You feel bad because obviously you're going to the biggest stage in college basketball to play for a guy you trust. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say the season was perfect by any stretch for Jaxson Robinson pre-injury, but he certainly had his moments. He certainly showed why many believe he would have been a second-round pick had he stayed in the draft last year. But I feel bad not only for the fans, but I feel bad for Jaxson Robinson as well. When he withdraws from the draft to follow Mark Pope, you don't envision injuries. You don't envision your season ending like this. But like I said off the top, I don't know that I can sit here and say that I'm totally surprised. He's been out 2 or 3 weeks. Wrist injuries are weird. And the fact that he came back against Oklahoma and then immediately within a couple minutes was back on the sideline, you just knew it wasn't a good sign. And I thought the interesting thing was after the game, Mark Pope, in addressing this piece of news, said they tried multiple procedures. They actually gave him an injection of some sort. And basically Mark Pope was like, listen, we knew he was going to need surgery. We were just hoping that he could play through it because he wanted to get back on the court so bad. He wanted to finish what he started And he wanted to lead Kentucky to whatever heights were going to be possible with him in the lineup this year. And you think about the sacrifice that means, the sacrifice that this kid made of stats, highlights, potential. Listen, if he had come back and played and struggled down the stretch, people are going to question him. NBA scouts are going to question him. But he just wanted to get on the court so badly, and he feels so bad that it didn't work out in that manner. Now let's talk big picture with Kentucky, because I think to me that's maybe as interesting of a part as any. And there's nothing else to say other than that this is both really devastating, but also something that you hope in theory Kentucky can overcome. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm not going to sit here and say that, everybody is going to be fine when you lose a 13-point per game a game score in the SEC that's shooting 38% from three. That, oh, by the way, has had some monster games throughout his time over the course of the season, multiple 25, 28, 29-point games, whatever it is. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that it doesn't matter. It is crushing. It is devastating. I guess the only thing, if you're looking for a silver lining, listen, I hate even doing this. I don't want to power rank who's the most important and, what injuries are the ones that you can deal with. That's not what this is about. And I hope it doesn't come off that way. But, I do feel like if there was a spot that you could kind of lose a really good player, kind of on the wing, that 3-point shooting, 3-point scoring spot is kind of the spot that it would be, right? Can't lose Lamont Butler long-term. Lamont's the point guard. He's, you need him to run that offense. He's also an elite defender. You can't lose Amari Williams. You can't lose Andrew Carr, I don't think. But there is a little bit of depth in that kind of wing shooting spot that Kentucky has. Kobe Brea, he's been up and down, but at least he can deliver in big moments. Otega Owe, we talked about a few days ago after the Oklahoma game. He looks like an NBA player to me, people. And, at this point, maybe it just means a bigger role for him where there aren't more shots to be shared with another person. And again, that's not to disparage Jaxson Robinson. It's just to say, if you're looking for silver linings, that's it. Same time, can't lie and say that this is the best news either. The kid was so good, so valuable. Again, I thought was really, prior to the wrist injury, playing some of his best basketball. 27 in that wild win at Mississippi State, 22 against A&M, his former team at home, 20 against Arkansas, his other former team. And so again, you just kind of felt like, okay, is this kid starting to be the best version of himself? And then he goes down with an injury. Like I said, good news for Kentucky. Lamont Butler is back. Good news for Kentucky. Andrew Carr is back. Amari Williams is still playing well. I know he struggled against Auburn. This isn't an Auburn reaction segment. But I just think if that's got to be the silver lining, is that this is a position where if you had to lose somebody, it's kind of manageable. And so that's just kind of what you hope for the rest of the season, is that you can survive this, you can get through it, and other guys step up. And I'll say this too, is, again, we're not trying to disparage how important this kid is to the team, but now some of these other guys, it's not a question of how many minutes am I going to play? How many shots am I? Kobe Brea, it's your time. Go get your buckets. Otega Owe, you ain't getting pulled out, so go get your shots. Guys off the bench, Trent Noah, I know it's not a positional match, et cetera, but you're going to get more minutes. You are now. Colin Chandler, so go take advantage of it. That's the silver lining. Listen, I don't want to put a floor or ceiling on this Kentucky team without Jaxson Robinson. It certainly hurts, but listen, we've seen him beat Tennessee without Jaxson Robinson. We've seen him beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma without Jaxson Robinson. And the one thing I will say, and again, just trying to be realistic here, if you're looking for a little bit of at least now there's no doubt. At least now there's not, comes back and practices, then has to take a practice off, then comes back and plays, then has to take a game off. It's like, it sucks, but you're without him, but you hope that the guys around him, can manage. So that's my quick reaction. It's disappointing. I think the big thing is I feel bad for Jaxson Robinson. I feel bad for the fans. But I also think, like anything else, it's going to be an opportunity for somebody else, whether it is Kobe Brea, whether it is Trent Noah, whether it is whoever. So now you got to go ahead and take advantage. As I said, we will have full coverage of this game. We're going to react to the Auburn side of things. We're going to react to maybe Auburn players celebrating on the court at Rupp Arena. There's going to be a lot to talk about Sunday. It'll probably be a Sunday evening Aaron Torres pod. So be on the lookout for that. But that is your late breaking update as Jaxson Robinson is out for the year. By the way, our Torres on UK account, we will have wall-to-wall coverage of this Jaxson Robinson injury. Make sure you're following on Twitter, Torres on UK.